The Anderson family Christmas gathering was in full swing at their sprawling Victorian mansion. Expensive garlands draped the mahogany staircase, and the scent of imported pine mingled with roasting turkey. Crystal champagne flutes clinked as my relatives celebrated their yearly tradition of comparing achievements. I adjusted my simple cream sweater, feeling the weight of my subtle Patek Philippe watch under the sleeve. Around me, designer outfits sparkled. Aunt Margaret's Chanel, Mom's Valentino, my sister Victoria's Prada. They'd positioned themselves around the 14-foot Christmas tree, whose ornaments probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. "Alexandra, you finally made it," Mom called out, her voice carrying that particular tone reserved for disappointing children. "We were just discussing Victoria's new position as head of neurology at Metropolitan." I nodded, watching my sister preen. "Congratulations, Vicky." "Thanks," Victoria smirked, adjusting her perfect blonde hair. "Not all of us can spend 3 years finding ourselves after residency. What are you doing now?" "Some clinic in the poor part of town." Dad cleared his throat, swirling his aged scotch. "Your sister's choices are unconventional. But at least she's doing something medical adjacent." "Speaking of living arrangements," Aunt Margaret interjected, her voice dripping with false concern, "where are you staying now, dear?" "That horrible studio apartment." "I have a place," I replied, checking my phone as another notification lit up the screen. The acquisition papers were ready for final review. "Well, you'll be comfortable in the basement guest room this weekend," Mom announced, not bothering to look up from her tablet. "Victoria's colleagues are coming for dinner tomorrow, and we need the good guest rooms." Aunt Margaret's laugh tinkled like ice in crystal. "The basement's perfect for a failed doctor. It suits your current station." I took a slow sip of water, noting how they'd seated me at the far end of the table, away from Victoria's prestigious doctor friends. My phone vibrated again. The board meeting would start in 20 minutes. "Remember when Alexandra thought she'd be a heart surgeon?" Uncle Philip chuckled. "Now look at Victoria, youngest head of neurology in the state. That's real success." Victoria preened. "Not everyone can handle the pressure of real medicine. Some people peak in medical school." I checked my watch, calculating the helicopter's arrival time. "Success is relative." "Oh, honey," Mom sighed, "there's no shame in accepting your limitations. The community clinic is noble. Someone has to help those people." The conversation shifted to Victoria's recent medical conference keynote speech. I noticed Dad rubbing his left arm, his face slightly ashen. My trained eye caught the subtle signs others missed. "You okay, Dad?" I asked quietly. Fine, he waved me off. "Just heartburn from the rich food." Not all of us work with charity cases. Some of us have stressful real medical careers. My phone lit up again. The helicopter was 8 minutes out. I watched Dad's color worsen, noting his irregular breathing and subtle sweating. "Maybe you should lie down," I suggested. "Don't try to diagnose me," he snapped. "Leave that to real doctors." Aunt Margaret touched her pearls. "Alexandra dear, know your place. Your father has his own physicians." That's when Dad clutched his chest and slumped forward. "Call 911. Mom screamed. Victoria froze, her neurology expertise useless in this cardiac emergency. I moved quickly, catching Dad before he hit the table. "He's having a heart attack. Get my bag from the car." "You can't possibly," Aunt Margaret started. "Get my bag," I commanded, my voice carrying the authority of someone used to running emergency rooms. As chaos erupted around us, my phone rang. Without looking, I knew it was about the helicopter landing. Everything was about to change, but first I had a life to save. The family watched in shocked silence as I took control, my movements precise and professional. This wasn't the basement-dwelling failure they thought they knew. This was Dr. Alexandra Wright, Chief of Cardiology, owner of the largest private hospital network in 3 states. Dad's eyes fluttered as his pulse weakened. "Hold on," I whispered, reaching for my medical bag. "You're about to find out exactly what kind of doctor I became." The sound of approaching sirens filled the air. But they weren't regular ambulances. They were my hospital's private emergency response team. Through the window, snow began to fall, and somewhere in the distance, a helicopter's rotors cut through the night sky. Christmas was about to get very interesting. The private medical response team burst through the door, their uniforms bearing the distinctive Wright Medical Group logo, my logo. Their synchronized movements spoke of elite training as they immediately deferred to my commands. "Dr. Wright, your equipment is ready," the lead paramedic announced, causing my family's heads to snap up in confusion. "Start him on a nitro drip," I ordered, my voice carrying the weight of thousands of similar emergencies. "Prepare the chopper for immediate transport to Wright Memorial's cardiac unit." Victoria stepped forward, her designer dress rustling. "Wright Memorial? That's the most exclusive cardiac center in the country. They don't just take. They take whoever I say they take." I cut her off, focusing on stabilizing Dad. "Because I own it." The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her manicured fingers, shattering on the imported marble floor. That's impossible," Aunt Margaret sputtered. "Wright Medical Group is worth billions. They own half the private hospitals in 3 states. I smiled slightly as I checked Dad's vitals. 5 states now, actually. The East Coast expansion finalized this morning. The medical team worked with practiced precision, prepping Dad for transport. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the snow-covered lawn lit up as my private medical helicopter descended, its spotlights illuminating the stunned faces of my relatives. But you work at a community clinic," Mom whispered, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. "I do. Along with running 37 hospitals, 12 research centers, and the country's largest cardiac care network." I turned to the team. "He's stable. Let's move." As we rushed Dad toward the helicopter, my phone lit up with the latest acquisition updates. The European expansion was proceeding ahead of schedule, but right now, all that mattered was saving my father's life. Victoria trailed behind us, her medical authority suddenly diminished. "I don't understand. How did you?" "While you were climbing the hospital politics ladder," I explained, helping secure Dad in the helicopter, "I was building an empire." "That community clinic you mocked? It's where I test innovative treatment protocols before implementing them across my network. Those charity cases you dismissed? They received the most advanced cardiac care in the world." The helicopter's rotors whirred to life, whipping snow around us. Mom grabbed my arm, her expression desperate. "Alexandra, there's room for 2 in the helicopter," I said professionally. "Mom, you're his wife. Victoria, you can follow in the private ambulance with the secondary team." Aunt Margaret stood in the doorway, her Chanel suit dusted with snow. "All this time you let us think." "I let you think what you wanted to think," I replied calmly. "Now excuse me while I go save my father's life." The flight to Wright Memorial took exactly 7 minutes. During that time I received 3 calls about the pending Tokyo merger, 2 updates about the new cardiac research breakthrough, and 1 message about the Forbes cover story set to run next week. I declined them all. In the state-of-the-art cardiac unit that bore my name, nurses and doctors snapped to attention as I strode through the halls, still wearing my simple cream sweater that probably cost more than my sister's entire designer wardrobe. "Prep or 3, I commanded. "Get Dr. Stevens on standby." "Dr. Stevens is in Paris," a nurse replied. "Not anymore. My jet picked him up an hour ago. He'll be here in 40 minutes. As Dad was prepped for surgery, I caught my reflection in the window. The failed doctor they'd banished to the basement was about to perform a procedure she'd pioneered, written about, and taught to surgeons worldwide. Victoria burst into the pre-op area, face flushed. "You can't possibly be performing the surgery. I won't allow." "Dr. Anderson," the chief of staff interrupted, "your sister quite literally wrote the book on this procedure. It's called the Wright method. It's taught in medical schools globally." I watched the realization dawn on my sister's face as she finally saw the framed magazines and medical journals lining the walls, all featuring my work, my innovations, my success. "But the basement," she whispered. "I didn't need the good guest room," I replied, scrubbing in. "I own the hospital. I own the building. I own the whole damn block." Through the observation window, I could see Mom sitting in the private waiting room, surrounded by the luxury that came standard at my facilities. Her eyes were fixed on the massive hospital logo bearing my name, the empire I'd built while they were busy dismissing me. "Now," I said, pulling on my surgical gloves, "would anyone else like to question my medical credentials? Or can I go save our father's life?" The ore fell silent except for the steady beep of monitors. Outside, snow continued to fall on the Wright Medical Group sign that crowned the building. Christmas dinner had definitely taken an unexpected turn. 6 hours later I stepped out of the operating room, exhausted but satisfied. The Wright method had worked perfectly, as it had for thousands of patients before. Dad would make a full recovery. In the private waiting room, my family had undergone a transformation of their own. Gone was their polished superiority, replaced by a humbling realization. They sat surrounded by evidence of my success, medical journals with my innovations, awards bearing my name, and a wall-mounted TV silently displaying Wright Medical Group's stock performance. "He's stable," I announced, removing my surgical cap. The procedure was successful. Mom leaped up, tears streaming down her face. "Alexandra, we never knew." "That was the point," I replied, checking my watch. "Dr. Stevens will monitor his recovery personally." "The Dr. Stevens?" Victoria's voice cracked. "The one who works for you?" "Along with 12 other world-renowned cardiac specialists. They lead my research divisions." I sat down, finally allowing exhaustion to show. A nurse appeared with my usual post-surgery green tea in a fine bone china cup, a small luxury I permitted myself. Aunt Margaret stood awkwardly, her perfectly coiffed hair now disheveled. "Why didn't you tell us? All these years we treated you like a failure?" I finished for her. "You needed someone to look down on. I needed peace to build something meaningful." I took a sip of tea. "Besides, watching you realize the truth tonight was satisfying." Through the window, dawn was breaking over the city skyline. My empire of hospitals and research centers stretched across the horizon, each building a testament to what I'd accomplished while they'd been busy mocking my little clinic. "The basement," Mom whispered, realization dawning. "You let us put you in the basement while you probably own half the properties in our neighborhood. 3/4, actually, including the mansion." I smiled slightly. "I bought it last year when Dad's company was struggling. You didn't notice the rent checks were going to a Wright subsidiary." Victoria collapsed into a chair, her designer dress wrinkled. "All those times we bragged about our careers, our connections. While I was busy revolutionizing cardiac care and building a multi-billion-dollar medical corporation." "Yes." I checked my phone. The Tokyo merger had completed successfully. Life's full of ironies. A soft knock interrupted us. Dr. Stevens entered, looking fresh despite his emergency flight from Paris. "Dr. Wright, your father's readings are excellent. Your procedure modifications worked perfectly, as usual." "Thank you, James. Please send the data to our research team. This case might help with the new treatment protocol." He nodded respectfully and left. Victoria watched him go, no doubt remembering how she'd once bragged about attending his lecture. Now he worked for her failed sister. "I want to see the clinic," Mom said suddenly. The one you're so proud of." I considered her request. "It's where everything started. Where I developed the treatments we use across the network. Those charity cases you dismissed? They receive care that billionaires can't access anywhere else." "Will you show us?" Victoria asked quietly. "Help us understand?" I stood, straightening my simple sweater, hand-tailored Italian cashmere that cost more than a car. "Dad will be unconscious for several hours. I suppose a tour could be educational." The morning sun painted the hospital halls golden as we walked. Staff members nodded respectfully, some stopping to congratulate me on the latest research breakthrough or acquisition. My family followed silently, witnessing the scope of what I'd built. In Dad's private recovery suite, a room that cost more per night than their monthly mortgage, I paused to check his vitals. The machines hummed softly, each one bearing the Wright Medical Group logo. "You know," I said, adjusting his blanket, "success isn't always about who shouts the loudest or shows off the most. Sometimes it's about quietly building something meaningful while others are busy judging." Mom touched my arm gently. "We were wrong. So terribly wrong." "Yes, you were." I turned to face them. "But being underestimated has its advantages. It taught me to value substance over show, impact over approval." Through the window I could see my helicopter ready to take me to the clinic. My real pride and joy, where innovation happened daily. Below, reporters were gathering, no doubt having heard about the emergency surgery. Next Christmas, I said, let's skip the basement drama. I have a better idea. What's that? Victoria asked. The Wright Medical Group's annual charity gala. It's at my Swiss resort. The guest list includes Nobel laureates, medical pioneers. I smiled. And one family who finally learned to look past appearances. Dawn broke fully over the city, lighting up the buildings bearing my name. Somewhere in the distance, another Wright medical helicopter took off, carrying hope to another patient. In his bed, Dad stirred slightly, alive because of the empire his failed daughter had built. Christmas would never be the same for the Anderson family. And that was exactly how I wanted it.